I'm Brian Wilson. Tori Clark is in for Brian Neiman today. Because Brian's not here, she's the designated cranky one. But she has a good reason to be cranky because she's among those who hasn't got any power.
A lot of people in the area have.
Yeah, I am just so fortunate in that my air conditioning, the lights dimmed and flickered, but held strong up in Germantown where I live. But, 1.5 million people in this area were without power at the height of the storm. Right now, even today, 1 out of every 4 people who is a customer of one of the electric utilities in this region is without power. 538,000 people still without power. And, we heard the guy from BG&E, Robert Gould, was on a little while ago, and he said that, let's be honest about it. We're probably not going to get most of the power up until the end of this weekend.
I have to say, if there's any silver lining with the 4th of July in the middle of the week, I know a lot of people had taken vacation. A fair number of people were probably out of town anyhow. So there's a tiny silver lining.
If you want to weigh in on how you survived or what's bugging you about this whole thing, look, you'll feel better. Just get it off your chest.
Exactly.
You have a phone. We have a radio station. You'll just feel better if you can vent. 1-888-630-9625. That's 1-888-630-WMAL. Or you can text the word, as always, feedback to 68683. We've been waiting here for a moment, tap dancing for a moment while we wait for Clay Anderson of PEPCO, and he is on the line now. Clay, how are you?
I'm well. How are you? Good morning.
All right.
Have you gotten any sleep in the last few days, Clay?
Very little, but for those without power, I'm sure they got a lot less.
All right, Clay, let's shoot it straight to us. Give us the bad news. How long is it really going to take? And what are the problems that you have as you try to get the utility system back up and running?
Number one, it really is going to be for the last customer, last man standing, probably about Thursday, Friday. So that is accurate. The problem is that hundreds, I don't have an exact number, probably close to 1,000 down wires. Those wires, you hear about fatalities. Wires are dangerous. We cannot rush cutting, reporting, targeting, tagging, replacing these down wires. Once we get the down wires tagged, replaced, then we send a tree crew. They cut the trees. That's where the PEPCO crews are. I know they're not up and down everybody's street, but we are literally running in this heat to get the wires done. So when the crews come out of town, all they have to do is climb the poles and wires and bring everybody back. But we're on it.
All right, so you're on it, but still a lot of people are not happy with the speed of the recovery. I know this was a bad storm. I know there are particular complications in that it wasn't like a hurricane where you see it coming for 3 days, so you can plan a little bit. I know that you're having trouble getting the other work crews in. But, there are a lot of people who say, when it comes to PEPCO, my gosh, it seems like they just always drop the ball in moments like this. What would you say to the people who say, this has happened far too often for PEPCO, and I don't have much sympathy for their situation?
What I would say is I understand that for many, perception is reality. Okay, I understand that. If your refrigerator is not cool, your house is not cool, folks are upset. We understand that. We sympathize, we empathize. I live in the PEPCO region. Power's been out. I completely understand. What I would say about the storm, this storm, the meteorologists have talked about it. It was unusual. It held together from Chicago through the day, throughout the Ohio Valley. Millions of people were affected, not just PEPCO, but I know it's all about my street, my family. I have a family here also. So what I say is to be as patient as you possibly can and understand that we are working diligently to bring your power back as safely and quickly as we can.
Hey, Clay, let me ask you something. I've lived here since 1979, and my husband and I were talking about it this weekend, and he's lived here for a long time, too. And I said, for the first 10 or 15 years I lived here, there'd be storms, snowstorms, hurricanes, etc., and power would be out for an hour or so, maybe a day. And in the last 10 or 15 years, I think there probably have been more storms, and that may well be global warming, but with absolute certainty, we now regularly lose power for several days at a time. What has changed? Is it that the system is old and antiquated and just can't withstand any kind of pressures like these? Is it that the storms are worse? What is it that has changed where we went from losing power for a few hours to now losing power for several days?
Well, I'll answer the first half of that. From a meteorological standpoint, it simply is that we are encountering this spring, from the last 6 to 12 months, more storms that have been intense from a wind dynamic. Irene made it to plan, and Irene only had 225,000 customers out. This one we hit 450 plus. That's the first thing. Second, as far as the infrastructure is concerned, we have been doing a lot since Irene as far as rebuilding, restoring the infrastructure overhead and underground. But when the lights go out, you're only remembered from when the last time the lights go out. So I get you on that.
All right. So Montgomery County, you've spent a lot of time in Montgomery County and other parts of your service area trimming the trees. Did it not pay off?
It did. I was out all day yesterday. I was in Montgomery County. I was in Kensington. I live in Montgomery County. I was up and down Old Georgetown Pike. Central, West Central Montgomery County hit very hard. Large trees, private property, public property, you name it. When those winds came through Friday night, it just knocked them down and just tore things up. It wasn't a tornado, but it had the winds. It wasn't a hurricane, but it brought the wind. I mean, that is a fact. We can't argue that. If we had 500 crews, we can't argue that. All I'm saying now is we've got to do it, got to get it done, and, you know, I understand frustration. We will accept that because that's our job.
So, Clay, last question. Looking forward, what I know PEPCO has been talking about or going for a rate increase. What impact is this and people's understandable frustration with the slow progress on this storm? What's that going to do to the proposal for the rate increase?
Well, the rate increase is a regulatory mechanism for cost recovery. I'll cut to the chase. The Public Service Commission and the public will decide what they're going to do with PEPCO and the rate increase. I'll be completely frank on that. We need the rate increase for our infrastructure, for these poles and wires, not only for a storm, but to keep the system running. That's why we ask for it. And that's the short answer, and we can debate that another time. But I understand on the rate increase. I understand that also.
All right, so Thursday, Friday, before it all comes back, but will it get substantially better for a good number of people? Can you give us any hope here, Clay?
Yes, we are 50% already ahead of the game as far as outages are concerned, and we're getting better. We're 206,000 or so now, and we were 440,000 about 36 hours ago. But that doesn't help the person who's out.
All right.
We're making progress.
Clay Anderson with PEPCO.